Hello everyone and welcome back to Grow with G. Today I'm recording my third episode of my podcast. Here we go. Hello everyone and welcome back to Grow with G. I am so excited to be recording another episode. This podcast has brought me so much joy and I am feeling so connected to all of my friends, and also how cool that I'm connecting with people that I don't know as well. So thank you so much for listening. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. But gosh, there is so much that I want to talk about. And I don't even know where to start. But today I really want to talk about something that's been really present for me this week in particular, which also takes me back to the start of my personal development journey. So it's probably pretty fitting. And that is living by your values. And this is a concept I never really knew of before this journey, because I feel like when you're in school, you get taught about values and it's sort of a bit like whatever. I didn't really connect with them personally back then. But they came back into my life when I was listening to a podcast by Jay Shetty. He is amazing. Like, he has seriously transformed my life. And there was an episode where he talked about letting your values guide your decisions. And I thought that was so interesting because I don't know about you guys, but I make decisions on absolute autopilot. I don't understand how I've made the decision. For some reason, it just feels right or wrong. Or actually, I haven't even made the decision and I've just shopped around all my friends being like, what should I do? And I get enough advice until I sort of feel like something feels right. And I just think that that's not the best approach anymore, because while your friends can offer such great insights, they don't have all the information like you do. Only you know all of the facts and your feelings and your experiences. And if you're outsourcing other people to make your decisions for you, they don't have to live with the consequences. And they're probably just projecting their own experiences onto you. So you'll never really know if their advice is actually the right advice for this situation. So if you bring it back to your values, you have just this superpower to reclaim back your own power and make your own life choices. So I'll take it back a little bit. Basically, a value is something that's important to you. So it can really be anything you want it to mean. I would encourage you to go onto Google and just search types of values and have a think about what applies to you, and take note that something that was important to you a year or so ago may no longer be important to you now. Or I think that's really interesting that your values can change over time. And another cool concept that I just learned about was you can have different values for different areas of your life. And I thought that was just so amazing, because then you can do a little deep dive into your life and be like, what are the values for each part of my life? And I think there's two parts of values. There's values for how you want to be treated, but in the same time, it's also how you treat other people. So I think if you're saying that kindness is important, then you want to be treated kindly, but at the same time, that means you also need to be kind to others. So I think that's just so interesting. So if you go through the different areas of your life, and just as an example, you could do like work, relationships, health, and joy, or like play, and go through and identify what's important to you. So I recently did this exercise and What did I think? I thought for work, I want to be helpful. So it's really important for me to be helping people. I want to be assertive because I feel like communication skills are super important in the workplace. You need to be able to communicate if you've got too much on your plate, or if you need help, or you need to get stuff done. You have to be assertive as well. And I did struggle a little bit with the work ones because I think I'm still figuring this one out for what's important to me in the workplace. But that was a good starting place. And then doing the values for relationships was actually a lot easier for me. So I just came up with so many, which is really fun. But some of them, which are pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go through each of them. But it's accepting, authentic, caring, trusting, compassionate, expressive, friendly, forgiving, grateful, honest, playful, supportive, open, and kind. And then health, I struggle with as well because I felt like the values weren't super on point for health, but I still wanted to do the whole exercise and give them specific values. So my health values were, I want to be determined because I feel like it takes a level of determination to like actually go ahead with the workouts that you want to do. And that in turn, you also want to be committed. So if you say you're going to do a workout, actually go and do the workout. And then, but flexible too, because if you feel like you wake up and you're feeling sick, don't push yourself, or maybe you want to change from a Pilates session to a yoga session. So yeah, that flexibility. And then also fun, because I feel like I want to have fun exercising. I feel like that is definitely possible. You just have to find the right things that work for you and maybe do a Pilates class with your friends. Like I just did one with a friend a week ago and it was so much fun, so much better than doing it alone. And then we went for a really nice juice afterwards and it was an experience. It wasn't just the class on its own. So yeah, I invite you to bring your friends along to your next workout and see if that makes it a bit more fun and also keeps you accountable, because I went to a concert the night before and I was dancing my heart out at this concert, and after the concert my legs were so sore and I was like, oh my god, I don't think I can go to this Pilates class tomorrow. My legs are so sore. But having it booked in with a friend the next morning meant that I actually went instead of bailing on it if it was just yourself. That was a tangent, but anyway. Play. So this is one, I don't know about you, but ever since I started working, I have not allocated much time or thought to play. I just sort of never really understood that it was important. But recently I have been adding play into my life, and whether there's a young child in your life, like I have a niece who's just over 2, and it is so much fun to play with her. So that brings out that side for sure. But if you're not in that position, there are other ways you can bring in play, like painting or anything that involves being creative. So whatever that means to you and whatever you enjoy doing in that sphere, definitely encourage you to bring that in and find time to do that. Even like if I don't have plans on a Friday or Saturday night, I love to paint now. And like that can almost be more fun than drinking and gossiping, honestly. So yeah, find ways where you can bring that into your life. But my values for that area would be creativity, compassionate, because you don't have to play properly. Like there's no proper way to play. You can just have fun. So be compassionate with yourself if you don't get things right. Like I'm not a good painter and my paintings aren't that great, but I have compassion for it because I enjoy doing it. Expressive and mindful. So yeah, really giving your focused attention to the play. Don't be on your phone the whole time, as tempting as that is. So once you've got your set of values for your different areas of your life, now's the fun part where you actually get to apply them, which actually it can happen automatically, but it does take a deliberate choice in the moment where you maybe, you used to act a certain way, but now you're like, no, if I'm living by my values, that means I'm going to do X option here. And I find this is a really good way to make a decision if you're feeling really stuck with something. And a way that you can actually do this is, so if you're in like a social situation, you're probably on your own right now, but if you're mulling over a social situation, write down all the options that you have and then see which options allow you to express your values and maybe what actions are counter to your values. So I can give an example on this, which is super personal, but that's what the pod is about, so I will share it with you all. I was seeing a guy and it was casual. He was moving away, so there was no pressure for us to become boyfriend, girlfriend or anything, and we never talked about it. And I thought we were both okay with that situation. And then it was a few months before he was leaving, and after we'd been seeing each other for a few months, he actually ended things with me over text. And I was really hurt by that because he had literally seen me the day before, and I was like, either like, why didn't you say this to me in person, or that you were kind of on the fence, or also if you did just decide this today, you could just end it so quickly over text and like not even try to see me in person. So I was really hurt, and I didn't respond straight away because I just didn't know what to say. It really felt like his mind was made up, and I'm not going to convince anyone to stay in my life. Like, I am more than fine on my own. If you're in my life, it's an addition. I will never convince anybody to stay. That's just something I'll never do. So yeah, anyway, I didn't respond to him because what do you say to a text with somebody ending it with you out of the blue? And yeah, then my silence really got to him, and I felt bad about that, but I was still like, I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything, which is a very big change for me, because if you knew me 10 years ago, I was explosive. Like, you would have had the most intense messages. Like, I would go all out with all of the insults, all of the remarks, because, looking at it now, I was so hurt back then that I wanted to hurt the other person. But I mean, like, I didn't intentionally choose that back then, but that's what I was doing. I wanted to show people my pain and make them feel the pain too. And I've moved beyond that now. Now I don't want to contribute extra hurt to the world, but it's a balancing act between, still have to look after yourself, because don't just go and make the other person who potentially wronged you feel better, but you don't need to make them feel worse, So it's sort of a balancing act. I'm moving away from that black and white, all or nothing thinking, where it's like, I have to rip into you or like be super nice to you. I can sort of be in that middle space where I respect both myself and the other person, allowing the other person to do whatever they want, but like, I'm not gonna engage in it really. So this guy started to get really upset, and he felt really bad for ending things with me on text, and he was like, please, can we catch up? And I was in my head, I'm like, why would we catch up? Like, you're just gonna tell me the same thing you said over text in a cafe when there's people around. Like, I'm honestly not really interested in that. Anyway, but the longer I dragged on, the more he was hurting, and he kept texting me, calling me, and I was just like, I really don't want to talk to you. And that was really hard because I did really like him as well. But eventually his incessant messaging was sort of getting to me, and I didn't want to just block him. I'm really unsure about the whole blocking thing, but at that point in my life, I thought that blocking was really abrasive and kind of immature. And I sort of never want to fully have no contact with anyone. Like, I sort of always want there to be a little bit of room. I don't know. I need to do more work on, or thinking on, blocking, because maybe there are some times where it's beneficial. But anyway, I've been blocked before and it's been really helpful. But it's clearly just because the other person's hurting, so, you know. Anyway, I wrote down all of my options, and my options were respond over text, call him, see him in person. And I sort of worked through, or block him. And I worked through each options, and I was like, what would I be displaying in each option? And I realized that, like, at the time when I had recently done this values exercise, being compassionate was really important to me. And I sort of looked at all the options, and I was like, which options allow me to embody being compassionate? And that wasn't blocking him. It was some form of communication. So that automatically took blocking out of the equation. And then I got to sort of sit with the other options and then work through, okay, what's best for me here? And I decided that calling him was actually the best middle ground, because I got to be compassionate. I got to give him the space to explain himself. But also not humiliate myself in a cafe. Like, I'm somebody who cries very easily, so yeah, that's just like, I'm gonna try to avoid that. And then we had a really good phone call where he got to explain himself. I got to ask some questions, and I cried on the phone, actually. I don't know if he noticed, and if he's listening, I was crying. But it felt really good, that I didn't just outsource this decision to all my friends who didn't know all of my emotions on this subject, and who hadn't been in the relationship with me and him. Not relationship, because we weren't like fully dating, but you know what I mean. Like, it's still a relationship without it being like boyfriend, girlfriend. Anyway, so that was a really interesting way that I got to choose to live by my values and reclaim my power. And when you live by your values, you get to be flexible, and you do things out of love and out of respect instead of out of reactivity. When you just automatically do something, like block someone, like, you've reacted. Like, that's not a response. I think that's so important. Been talking about this with my friend this week, is give yourself space when you don't know what to do in a situation. And if it's super fresh, you're probably going to react, say something you regret, do something you regret. Whereas, give yourself some space. If you don't know what you want to say or do yet, think on it, do this exercise, and then you get to choose a response. And there is so much more power in choosing how you live your life, instead of just being like controlled by your reactions. Like, and also, I think those reactions also stem from a set of what I would call your personal rules. I read this book called The Four Agreements, and I think everyone should read it. It's basically says that your personality, or how you go through life, is based on these set of agreements or rules, as you could also call them, that you have decided are the be all and end all. And a lot of these rules were developed out of necessity when you're growing up, because you got taught how to live a certain way to protect yourself, and protect yourself from judgment, from fear, from rejection from others. And they can lead to a lot of unhealthy things now, where we no longer need those sorts of rules. So like a high level example of a rule that I used to have, which kept me trapped, was this responsiveness. Like as soon as somebody sent me a text, I have to respond. If I'm on my phone, I have to respond. And that created a lot of resentment for me when I then text my friends and then they don't text me back, and then they post on Instagram and I'm like, I know you're on your phone. Why are you ignoring me? Why don't you like me? There was so much suffering in living by that rule. Whereas now, if you choose not to live by those rules you used to create, you can create so much peace in your life. And you're not obligated to act a certain way and then expect other people to act the same way, because nobody has the same set of rules in life. It doesn't mean that if they don't text you back, they don't like you. That's not their rule. I've actually had friends, when we've talked about this, say they don't respond to people quickly when they don't have the energy to respond, because they like that person so much that they want to give that person their whole attention and really respond to everything. Whereas I'm the complete opposite. Like I reply straight away, but I'll probably miss 2 out of 3 of your questions because I'm on the fly, my head's somewhere else, I'm doing something else. And I think that's so beautiful to actually come to a text message with your friends with this energy where you can give them more instead of giving them the bare minimum of one response. Often when I go to respond the next message, I see my old messages and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I missed like so many things in your past chain. So I think it's the same in dating too with the rules. It's like, not everyone has the same set of rules. Like you think, oh, I shouldn't respond to a text straight away because that makes me look desperate. But if the other person doesn't have the same set of rules, they'll think, oh, she doesn't like me, she's not responding to me. So people don't have the same set of rules, and it also goes that people don't have the same set of values, and that does not mean either is correct. And that is something I learned a few years ago and really struggled with, because I always thought, no, people should value friendship more than they value whatever, like alone time, for example, or something. Or like people should be loyal. And that's just because I value loyalty, and just because I treat my friends one way, like everyone doesn't have to have the same set of values. And some people will value like family more than friends more than family. It's so unique, and I think there would be a lot less suffering if we all accepted that people have different values. And it's not personal. Like so many things we think are personal and not personal. I know I've spoken about that, I think, in another episode. And that's one of like the 4 agreements in that book I was talking about. They have these 4 agreements that they say that to free suffering, you should just operate with those 4 agreements and drop your other agreements that you've picked up along your life. And so yeah, one of them was like, don't take things personally, be impeccable with your word. So, only speak kind things, and stay true to your word. Don't make assumptions, because you never really know. Like, you don't have all the truth, and don't assume that everything is the truth anyway. And also always do your best. So if any of those resonate with you, have a read of that book. It was really interesting. But Yeah, I really like the flexibility of values over those arbitrary rules. Another arbitrary rule I had was every day after work, I need to watch Netflix to relax and decompress. And that was holding me back. Like, I would spend like at least an hour every night watching Netflix. Whereas, like, now I've got a business to run. Now I'm like creating these podcast episodes. And by cutting out the Netflix every single night, or, you know, halving the time of it, has just freed up so much space in my life. And what you should understand too is those rules that you've created, for example, the watching Netflix every night, underneath each rule are actually the values behind it, which is really cool. So by watching Netflix every night, I value relaxation. And when you sort of uncover the value behind the strict rule, you're like, you've got a lot more freedom to act a little bit differently, but still, you know, valuing what you value. So now, you know, sometimes instead of watching Netflix, I'll read or like painting or something. So that can be substituted because it has the same effect, but I'm not bound to such a strict rule. So if there's things that you have that you've like rules that you've created, have a think of like what's actually beneath it. Like the other rule that I talked about responding to my friends straight away. That's me valuing friendship, being like, friendship is more important than whatever I'm doing right now, and I want to respond to my friend. But it's sort of like, yeah, when I step back from that and I'm like, well, if I value friendship, I actually should give my friends more of my focused attention instead of just when I'm at the grocery shops and want to respond to them because they've texted me straight away. So, I think that's all I want to say on this. Let me know what you think, what your values are. If you've used your values in a certain way, I would love to hear about it. And yeah, if you found any of this really helpful, that's amazing to hear as well. So thank you so much for listening, guys. I love recording these. I get such a burst of energy and feelings of connectedness, as I said at the start. So thank you so much for giving me this space. And if you're listening to this in the morning, I hope you have a great day. And if it's nighttime, I hope you have a great night. I love you so much, guys. Bye.